Hello, my name is Saudi and I am an Asian American. I was born in the United States, but my parents are immigrants from Laos. My parents came here with nothing, and now they own a car, a home, and a loving family. So I guess you can call them an American success story, right? Well, most of the time people only hear half of that story. I've noticed that whenever we talk about sacrifice and migrant parents, we focus on what our parents had to do so that we can be where we are. Oftentimes, we forget the sacrifices that happen after they get here. Sacrifices made by both parents and child. I remember the first time I had to translate for my mom and dad. It was during my middle school conference, and I wanted to show off my good grades to them. This was way more difficult than I could have ever imagined. My teachers were using words that I didn't even know how to translate in Hmong or simply didn't exist in the Hmong vocabulary. At that moment, I felt ashamed and angry at my parents for not knowing English. I remember thinking to myself, why couldn't my parents be white? Why couldn't they speak English, and why do I have to be the one to translate for them? I'm only a kid. My childhood was filled with moments like this. Occasions where I didn't speak up nor claim the stories and identities of my parents because they weren't American enough for me. Moments where I had to be the adult because my parents didn't know how this country worked. These moments were so small that I didn't even recognize what I was doing to myself and to them. Eventually, I grew to become ashamed of my immigrant parents. It wasn't until college that I reclaimed our family's story. It all began with a project I had to do for one of my programs. The purpose of this project was to present something about your identity, and at first, I simply wanted to give a spoken word piece about my identity as an Asian American. But it became something so much more. Like a surgeon, I began to dissect my past, how my identity as a Hmong American affected me, and why I am who I am today. One night while writing, I read a sentence that I wrote about my parents out loud. Quote, I saw them as failures. Failures who should have never come to America in the first place. End quote. Suddenly, I started crying. I couldn't bring myself to a stop. That project was one of the hardest things I've had to do because it forced me to face my reality. A reality where I had to grow up and take care of my parents because they were also children in this new land. That sacrifice is a two-way street. It helped me come to understand a fraction of the full extent of the emotional, mental, social, and physical sacrifices made by my parents and myself. At the end of it, I not only began to reclaim my parents' identities as Hmong immigrants from Laos, but my identity as a first-generation Hmong American student.